Hello all and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harrison. I'm shirtless. In fact, everybody on our cast is shirtless tonight. And that is in honor of Magic Mike XXL and of course our very own Magic Mike Lovins, who's joining us tonight, who only joined us on the condition that we would do the show shirtless tonight.
It was my idea.
I'm introducing you first. Welcome back, Mike. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be back, as always.
Hotness. Woo, look at that chest hair. I'm peeking at it. What? With us, as usual, of course, are my fabulous cohorts, Jim Pliafko. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, and hi, guys, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis is here with us as well. Welcome, Will.
Hey, welcome back to the show to movie fans and bears who just happened to be on Facebook and saw a bunch of shirtless people and said, I'm going to go to that. Because there might be a few of you here today.
Because why the hell not, right?
Because why not? Yeah. Fuck it. This is fun.
Be interested to see if showing the skin, changes our audience numbers at all.
You kind of tell I'm the only one that lives east of the Mississippi here, I think.
Well, we shall see. We have a fun show this week. Of course, we'll be talking about Magic Mike XXL. We're also going to be dishing up a little movie news for you guys, as well as giving you our weekly plugs, and you won't want to miss those.
Yep.
But we do have a lot to talk about. So, actually, before we do that real quick, we've been talking about Inside Out. Will, I have to show you. Look what I got over the weekend.
Ooh.
Hot Topic exclusive translucent Bing Bong. What?
Faded Bing Bong. Isn't it? It's kind of weird. Like, historically, I found reasons to avoid Hot Topic, but things like that are kind of like, all right, you guys are relevant as a company to me again.
Oh my gosh, we bought like $200 worth of stuff at Hot Topic this week. It's crazy. Jim, show us.
Aww.
Hey,
that's
guys.
adorable.
Sorry I'm interrupting the podcast, but I was feeling a little sad, so I thought I'd say hi.
Nice.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Totes.
I'll go away now. I guess you don't really want me here.
Oh, goodness
Oh,
gracious.
sadness, you're so emo.
We love sadness. Sadness makes me want to listen to Coldplay on repeat, and that's a good thing.
Is
You got it? You got it?
She was all yellow, blue.
You got to embrace your sadness sometimes, right?
That's
Fair enough.
right.
Yeah.
It isn't
it.
all about trying to be happy all the time.
I embrace my
I don't know about
sadness.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm embracing her right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choke her. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
Choke my sadness away.
Sometimes it's
fast.
Sometimes it's okay to be sad. We can't feel bad about being sad because sometimes we need to.
That's true. That is very true.
That is a point.
But sadness is not the theme of tonight's episode. In
No,
fact,
not really.
I just watched
Depends what you thought of the movie.
I just watched 8 people join at once, which I think is a new record of people joining in one. So this I think is going to be interesting.
I think the only way
They're probably scrolling through the on-air little thumbnails and see 4 shirtless dudes, and they're like, "What? What?"
The only way we'll get more is if we have an episode where Jim accidentally lets his dick pop out in the middle of an episode.
I know, right?
Accidentally. Yeah.
Okay. You know what?
Malfunction.
I think that was the Adrian Charlie blush moment of the week, and it was not from me for once, Adrian. That was all Will.
All Will. Yeah.
I don't want to be the one that gets us banned for life from Google Plus, Libsyn, YouTube, and everything else that we do.
And
I have to say, if your dick offends Libsyn, an all audio platform, then we know that there's trouble.
Well, I think those organizations probably talk to each other. So
yeah, I'm sure. You get banned from one, you get banned from all at the same time.
That's right.
That's true. Guys, we have a shirtless pick submission for tonight. Ding, 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 ding.
Bring
You
it
ready
up.
to see it? You ready to see it?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's from the super mega hunky hot Paul Alderete.
Hey, Paul.
What? Look at that hairy chest.
Nice.
Oh, and
And
what deliciousness is that?
Oh,
It's a rum and coke, it looks like.
Oh no, I was talking about Paul, but yeah, I guess the drink
Or
looks
is
good
it
too.
Jack and Coke? I don't know. I can't tell.
I
mean
know.
Jack and Coke.
Oh my.
Oh goodness! Oh goodness!
This is
Oh,
going to be
my.
a very blue episode, and I'm not even talking about sadness.
Oh
I
gosh!
think he meant white. Coke.
It is a very white episode.
We're going to
unfortunately.
be earning
Yeah.
our explicit rating this week.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You
Bring
know,
it.
so we have a live comment from Steve from Sacramento Movie Bears, who says, "Given the time-honored rules of gay camming, it was weird to me that you guys ever had shirts on. This seems much more normal."
This is more appropriate. This is how dudes just hang out and talk movies, right? It's like Brad's gonna toss on his harness, the rest of us take off our shirts and be like, "Come on, what's up, guys? What'd you guys think of Magic Mike?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if you're hinting, Steve, if you're hinting that we should do this all the time, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. You know what I mean? So we got to tone it back once in a while.
Right. You know, we've got to make sure that we.
Otherwise, it becomes not special, right? Even male strippers don't go around naked all the time.
No, you got to meter that out. You got to give it in little slivers. You got to leave them wanting more.
Right.
Excuse me.
Rule number one.
Excuse me. Not male strippers.
Male
entertainers.
Male performers.
Male entertainers.
We have
another live comment. Will, I think you have that one, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do. All right. So this one is from Matt Broussard. Hey, we know Matt from the Comic Book Bears podcast.
Matt, hi.
Hey.
Hey, Matt.
Matt says, will I be able to follow the complexities of XXL without having seen the origin film? I can answer that one. I haven't seen the first Magic Mike film, and I was able to completely follow XXL without having seen it because they lay everything out right on the table. So we'll talk a little bit more about it when it's film review time, but this isn't one of those super nuanced, super complex films where if you miss the original, you're going to be lost.
So in other words, hang around with us because you're fine. You won't be missing any. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. We'll talk about it. I really like the first film. I think it's worth a watch. But
I can't grade the first one yay or nay, but I can say that I felt like I wasn't missing anything story beat wise.
Right.
If I hadn't missed it.
So hang out with us, Matt. You're not missing anything for this discussion, but circle back maybe.
Yeah, the only thing you'd missed is the good movie. That's the only thing you'd missed.
All right. We're not gonna.
That doesn't tip my hand too much.
No. But we might be blowing our wad a little early. We might want to practice some restraint with that.
I would just let's
edge it a little bit. Let's edge it just a little.
Wow. I would like to point out that there have been three Adrian Charlie blush moments, and neither of them have been me. So
you've already had like 2 Will Lindis blush moments. Let's be honest here. Like I'm beat red, and I'm on the fucking show.
I'm beat red too, but that's because I got all sunburned at gay barbecue pool parties this week.
That's gonna be a completely different story.
All right,
he means all sunburned, if you know what I mean.
I might know a thing or two about that.
Maybe. Anyway, mixed crowd. But guys, are we ready to dig into some movie news?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Let's get into a little bit of movie news. No, the sound effect is dun 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 dun. It's all right. You're still lovely, Mike. You get a pass. You're good. All right. So movie news this week. Let's see. It is no secret that I have been a very, very big critic of. Critic? That's probably the wrong word. I've been very critical of Man of Steel and its ending. But I actually, don't judge me, guys, I picked up a subscription to Entertainment Weekly over the weekend because they had Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman on the cover. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to check it out. And subscriptions were like, I don't know, 60% off or something. It was like $9. So I'm like, a year's worth of magazines every week for $9? Why not? Anyway, so I was reading a really cool article, and it's got me maybe rethinking. And I don't often go back on myself, so take note. Today, 7/6/15, it's got me rethinking the ending a little bit of Man of Steel. And maybe I'll go back and watch it again, maybe, if I'm feeling forgiving. But it talks about how, spoilers for Man of Steel, blah, 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 blah. Superman and Zod fight through downtown Metropolis, destroy like 1,000 buildings. It was like 9/11 times 12, except with Kryptonians. And, the body count was somewhere in like the millions, and Superman didn't seem to care, whatever. But according to the article and some quotes from Ben Affleck, actually, apparently Bruce Wayne had one of those buildings and lost a ton of people who worked for him, and has a personal stake in Superman being a super fucking douche, and that's why it's coming to blows, baby. And so I don't know. I heard that the end of the movie kind of sets this one up and some of the conflict stuff, but I'm not going to spoil the whole article, because if you get a chance, you should go out and read it. It's got some really interesting insights that kind of have me rethinking some things, but. I don't know. I'm a little more interested now to see kind of how this whole thing plays out. They introduced some new images from the film as well. We have Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor with long hair, which is interesting. We get to see a little more of Wonder Woman. I don't know. I'm getting a little more excited for this movie. It's saying something because God, I'm so superhero movied out at this point. But yeah, good stuff. So.
It excites me that you're feeling that way, Brad. When we talked about this back on our show, God, I mean, it's been quite a while since we did our Man of Steel review. One of the things that I was withholding judgment on in terms of the ending was it was all going to depend to me on what they did next with it. Like, if it's just a matter of Superman is reckless, a bunch of people die, he kills off Zod, all of these things happen, and there's no payoff in the next film, because that's the type of thing that you can use to kind of launch a next story, then it's an absolutely terrible idea. If they use that to launch, like, why Superman is a better character or a worse character or something like that in the sequel, then it suddenly has some stakes and it suddenly works for me. So I'm excited about that article, because the one thing that I really needed to enjoy the ending of Man of Steel looks like it may be coming true. All of that said, we need to do an episode sometime, kind of like a retractions and revisions episode. And what I mean by that is, have you guys ever watched a movie in the real time, like while you're watching it, or maybe within the first week or month or whatever, you have a certain reaction to it, and then over time your feeling towards it either increases, like maybe it grows on you, you start to get the themes more, or the film just degrades and the more, like, the holes become more and more gaping, and eventually you're just kind of like, yeah, this is problematic. Man of Steel is that for me. So I would love to do a retractions episode where I say, hey, remember when I said I liked Man of Steel? I think I like it a lot less now, having seen it again and having a little bit of distance. But anyways, I'm excited to see them at least do something with one of the more controversial elements to a lot of Superman fans from the first one. It sounds like at least there's going to be some payoff.
Hey, Will.
Yeah?
Ask me, when do we start?
When do we start?
We just did.
Wow. Way to go, Brad.
I know.
So, Brad, are you saying that you, are anxious to see Superman pay for what happened? You are. So I find that odd for somebody who really loves Superman to want to see him, like, totally torn down.
Well, here's the thing. If this is used as like a teaching moment, I mean, I've always loved like the dichotomy of Batman and Superman. I've always loved how, like, in the comics and some of the animated shows, Batman is like a grounding presence, the sort of like knocks Superman off his high horse sometimes and gets him to kind of like learn some things about himself or humans and how our world works. So if the plot of this movie sort of sets up like Superman sort of no longer killing, taking big villains out of the city when he fights them. If Superman gets all that growth out of like his contact with Batman, then maybe that's earned. Maybe that makes me a little more excited. You know what I mean? Like I do want to see Superman sort of brought to like brought to task a little bit for that. This Batman is an older, more experienced, grizzled Batman. Superman is just starting out. I really want to see Batman fucking take him to take him to task. But
wow, I'm surprised to hear you say that. Actually,
why are you so surprised?
I thought you were a Superman supporter.
Well, I love Superman, but this Superman.
So what
a
if Batman
jackass.
takes him to task and takes him out, and he's done? That's good with you?
Well, it's Superman. He can't take him out.
I don't think they're going to do that.
So then there are no stakes, then, basically.
No, it's not that there's no stakes. Like, it seems like in this case we've got an amateur Superman who, in his first outing, fucked up pretty heavily. We can all admit he did not do what he needed to do the most effective way. He was new. He was learning. So if Batman kicks his ass all over the place, at the same time while Superman is like, he's already kind of like, yeah, could I have done that different? Could I have done something else? If this becomes an opportunity for Superman to be a stronger character by the end of it, kind of one of those, like, you have to tear something down sometime to build it back up.
Exactly.
If that's how they build this up, then I don't think it necessarily erases the damage done in the first film, but it at least does something positive with it. In other words, it doesn't immediately turn the first film into a perfect
I'm glad you guys are excited about it. If it goes that way, I just see, Batman like, don't ever do that again. Okay, I won't. I learned my lesson. I'm going to be good now.
Well, it's not that he was bad in the first one. He was just reckless. It wasn't like Superman was an evil character. He was just young and immature and didn't handle things properly. But excited is kind of a high bar for me on this one. I don't necessarily say I'm excited about Dawn of Justice as much as this most recent news is one of the more glimmer of hope type things I've seen out of the recent Dawn of Justice news, which has been a lot of it's not resonated with me.
I totally want to see a scene where there's like soft piano music playing in the background, and Superman's like, you know what? I learned something today.
Kids, don't do what I did and make the same mistakes.
Exactly.
Superman, what did you learn? I'm Batman.
Would you like to get a cup of coffee, Bruce? It's okay. Calm down, man.
God, stop being a dick, Superman. We'll see if they can make something worthwhile out of this. I'm not hopeful.
I know. How about you, Mike? We haven't heard from you. Where do you fall in on this?
I'm actually very excited about it, to be honest. Yeah? I loved Man of Steel. I was totally okay with the ending. To me, I didn't feel like there was anything else he could have done. But we won't go into a whole new review of the movie, but
so that's interesting, Mike. So in your view, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but if Batman takes him to task for that specific thing, you feel that it will be unjustified.
I don't think that Superman had a choice but to take Zod out.
Right.
But maybe the methods of doing it and the utter destruction that it took to get to that point, that's where maybe he needs to learn, like one of you guys said, get the bad guy out of the city before you start beating his ass and stuff like that. But I do feel like Zod had to be taken out.
Right, and you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. So, sorry. I mean, innocent
a few million eggs, apparently.
Innocent people got killed, but in the end, he saved the world, did he not?
Right. And it might even be fair to say that this is a situation where maybe it was the right thing to do in that situation with the skill set that he has, but a more mature, more experienced Superman could make a better decision. So it's one of those things where it's not necessarily that it was a right or wrong decision. It was the decision that was made at the time. That decision, even if it was the right decision in context, has consequences, and we're getting to see those consequences play out.
Right.
I want to see him struggle with those consequences internally. Right. I don't want to see it as an external plot device to drive the next movie. I don't want to see that.
I think, though, some of the stuff that they're showing in the trailer, like the statue with false god and stuff like that, he may not be human, but he's got feelings. He's going to see all that kind of stuff, and it's going to hit him.
Yeah.
Even before Batman does.
He's totally going to be like reading internet blogs and come across some like comments from like Lex Luthor 777, and it's totally going to like
Superman, you suck.
He works for the Daily Planet now, so he's hearing all these stories and stuff like
That's
that.
true. That's true. Good point. All right.
Interesting.
Well, I don't want to monopolize our movie discussion, even
That's
though
a whole
that
other
was like a
episode.
really good 20 minutes of discussion.
That was fun.
Jim, what do you got?
All right, mine is directly related to what we're talking about today. It's Magic Mike XXL news, kind of. As we know, this movie opened this past weekend. It opened against Terminator Genesis, I think, as the other big movie, as well as the holdovers from the previous week. Jurassic World, Inside Out, and maybe a couple of others. But the big news is that the results came in for the people who went to see Magic Mike XXL, and the audience split between female to male was 96% to 4%, which I don't know if that's a record.
Male, I assume
96% female to 4% male. I don't know if that's any kind of record, like if they keep stats on that stuff, but it's got to be really close. I can't think of another movie that would have skewed. Even 50 Shades of Grey probably wasn't even close. The first Magic Mike movie, which did better than this one overall, was about a 75-25 split female to male ratio, which sounds about right to me, based on, females dragging along their, boyfriends, husbands, the gay male audience, the film fan audience, which got word that this first movie, it's not just about guys stripping. There's a pretty good movie here, and it's a Soderbergh movie, so there's his fan base as well.
Right.
So, but this movie at 96 to 4, like, I'm a little astounded by those numbers. I know that in our screening there were maybe 60 to 70 people in there, Brad, total.
And we were like 2 of 3 men.
Yeah, we were 2 of 3 dudes in the movie theater. Because I count, in 50 Shades of Grey and in this movie, I try to count like how many guys there are, because there aren't that many. So I think the numbers are pretty close to real, but the issues with the movie probably had something to do with that, the skewing of those numbers. I think the tone of the trailers was totally different than the first movie. I think the fact that it wasn't Soderbergh this time, it was an unknown director, fairly unknown director, even though he was Soderbergh's second unit director. And maybe also the competition that was out at the time of the movie's release. When the first movie was released, it had movies it was going against like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter and Medea's whatever movie at the time. There was no other real big blockbuster it was competing with.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of that 96 to 4 ratio? What was your experience when seeing it?
What I want to know though is how do they get those stats? Because it's not from walking in and handing your ticket. Is it a kind of like a survey kind of thing? Because how many guys maybe?
Oh, that's really easy, Mike. There are seat sensors.
Yeah. That totally makes sense to me.
The seats that detect farts are automatically guys.
And the seats that detect the smell. Well, anyway.
Like because women don't fart. Women never fart. I got you.
Summer's Eve makes you feel fine.
When we went, there were about 8 total people in the theater. Us 2 guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ours was. I had a packed theater. We had maybe 120 or so in ours, and I would say probably a 90% female to male ratio.
Okay.
And this was so at our theater they had basically 2 types of screenings running parallel. They had regular showings, which means no talking, no texting, sit there and be quiet. And then they had rowdy showings because they knew people were going to want to haunt, like hoot and holler and stuff like that, and go woo, and all of that stuff as like the guy stripped on stage. So they had a separate showing running parallel for it. And my hunch is, and I could be completely wrong, but my hunch is those might have skewed even more higher female percentage on those.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, the numbers.
Were they throwing dollars at the screen?
After seeing that movie, I don't know if there are any dollar bills left to throw at the screen.
I do have an interesting observation about this. The first movie, Jim, I don't know if you remember when we saw it, was a much younger female audience. This audience, and maybe it was because we saw it in the middle of the day, I don't know, but it was like blue hairs, a lot of blue hairs.
It was very, very heavy cougar town.
Oh yeah.
There were a couple of blue hairs, but there were a couple of older females in there, but mostly cougars, I'd say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting. I mean, we can talk about maybe some of the other more spoilery or specific reasons why we think it's skewed that way. But Will, I'm curious what is this rowdy screening thing you're talking about?
So the theater that I go to has a lot of events that they do, like things like sing-alongs and stuff like that. And so every so often they'll do, usually with an archived movie, they'll do some sort of themed event. But with this one, they knew that the theater I go to, I've mentioned on the show plenty of times, Alamo Drafthouse, they have a big deal about you're not allowed to talk during the movies, they'll kick your ass out. But at the same time, they know that this is one of those movies where part of the fun of going to it is having that joint experience of cheering at the screen as so-and-so takes off their shirt, or just kind of engaging with the screen. So what they did was they had two showings at the same time, kind of like how you'd go and there'd be a 2D version and a 3D version.
Right.
In this case, they had regular and they had rowdy screenings, and if you went to the rowdy screening, it was kind of like a don't complain if people are talking or cheering, because that's the point.
I gotcha.
Right.
That's interesting.
I didn't do the rowdy screening because I didn't need that. Yeah.
That's something I'd like to explore maybe later on another show. Is I know what the Alamo Drafthouse's policy is with movies about no talking, texting, all that stuff. But reacting to movies to me is different than talking in a movie. And we can talk about that.
There's a difference between reacting and just take it off, woo! Do you see that, woo? Really engaging. That's one thing versus a laugh or a woo. I don't know. It's a fine line in some cases, but I think that if they want to encourage the behavior in some situations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Interesting. Apparently, women love shirtless guys, but I think men do too.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know. Did the gay male community really resonate around the first movie though?
I think so. I mean, I knew a lot of... I mean, obviously within our community, there's a certain body type that's more popular, not necessarily represented in the Magic Mike films.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm rocking a Channing Tatum body right now. Thank you.
I totally have a six-pack. I keep it in my fridge.
Hey,
but I totally have
one when you can have a keg.
Right? Right. But yeah, I mean... There's a type that a lot of people in our community more lean towards, and it's not the type that's in those films, but there is a large segment of the gay population that enjoys Channing Tatum, that enjoys Matt Bomer, enjoys all of these different guys. So I do remember quite a bit of buzz from kind of my non-bear community friends around that time, oh my god, you gotta go see Magic Mike, you gotta go see it, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, there was also an equal amount of you got to see Magic Mike because it's a little bit different than what you expect. It's actually quite a decent film. And Will, I know you didn't see the first movie, but I mean, from somebody who did see both movies, we'll get into which one I like better and why and all that stuff.
I skipped it because. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just think that I think there was more of a male movie fan, just guys who like movies would go to see that movie, not because of the dudes necessarily, but but because that it was a Soderbergh film, and it was it was not quite what was expected.
Yeah.
Right.
In a good way.
And I remember that buzz too, and that's part of the reason I didn't go see it. I know it makes me a bad film fan, but I don't like Soderbergh all that much, so that became kind of a hard sell for me. But it's Soderbergh. It's yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I know I know that's totally personal taste. I know he's very well regarded by a lot of people.
Jim, I have an non sequitur, and then we'll move on to Will's movie news. So I took our new camera out yesterday. We had some friends visiting from from Chicago, and we went to one of our like favorite places to go hiking to watch the sunset. And I took a really, really cool picture of the sunset. It's now my new cover photo on Facebook. But Jim, you said it was a Soderbergh sunset. I'm not that familiar with Soderbergh's work. What does that mean exactly?
A lot of his films have a certain look to them, and I mean visual look. Like it's usually the colors are quite muted and tend to shift toward the warmer, like yellowish orange.
Okay.
Yellowish orange tint throughout, and your picture kind of looks that way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why.
So it's because it's like orangey, warmy.
It's orangey, yellow, yellowish. Yeah, yellow, golden, like
Golden.
a golden cast across.
Like a golden girl, but
Golden shower.
golden.
Oh,
What? Golden shower.
Yes!
Golden shower.
Oh my God.
Wow.
We're
Here's the
getting into
picture.
some really freaky territory right now.
Well,
See?
it's the rain clouds.
Exactly.
Is that gold? Is that gold?
Yeah, that's
that's totally Soderbergh. Yeah.
Is that? Anyway, okay. I guess I've been Soderbergh schooled at this point. Thank you, Jim. Will, what is your news this week, my friend?
all right. My news items. It's not Superman and it's not Magic Mike. My movie news is about Hello Kitty of all things. Hello Kitty. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the phenomenon that is Hello Kitty, but it's this Japanese brand that's been around for like 40 plus years, and everything from like backpacks to posters to pencil cases to like there was a cartoon series that ran something like 12 years or something along those lines. So the reason I bring this up and the reason it's relevant to the show, this huge like cultural phenomenon for the last 40 years has never had a film adaptation until now. Deadline has reported that there is a plan to get a finished product in theaters by 2019. Now, we don't know at this point if it's going to be animated, if it's going to be some live action, if it's going to be CGI hybrid or anything along those lines. But we do know that the company that's behind Hello Kitty, Sanrio, is deciding to go all in on this. It looks like they're expecting a budget between like 160 and 240 million dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's even some talks. Again, this is a film that's not going to be out until 2019, super early on. We don't know much, but there's already been some buzz and some talk that there are other characters and other parts of the Sanrio brand, other different characters that are also in feature development as well. So for me, the thing that's most surprising about this is everything gets adapted, right? Like everything turns into a film adaptation, and for something that's been around this long, I'm actually surprised that it's taken this long for us to see something Hello Kitty. Now, you can look behind me. I've got no Hello Kitty stuff in my house, although it was one of those things you just kind of, growing up, were always aware of. Like someone always had the pencil sharpener or the barrettes or whatever it was the different girls in your class had. Oh, or boys.
I have a Hello Kitty Gene Simmons.
You have Hello Kitty and Gene
Nice.
Simmons? That's pretty badass. That's pretty badass.
I wish I had it down here.
Oh, I do too.
You could stand up and go get it, and we'll say we're not watching you stand up, but we really will.
And then we get to find out if Mike wore pants to this episode. But yeah, so that's my news. It's not, again, it's very speculative news. This is just buzzings and rumblings, but it always, to me, is like really impressive when something finally makes the leap from phenomenon to film. And again, in a world where Grumpy Cat went from phenomenon to film in 2 years?
Yeah.
I'm surprised it took this one this long. I'll be interested in seeing what else we hear from it. What about you guys?
Phenomenon. Dun 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 dun.
Phenomenon.
Oh, what do we got, Jim? What's this? Aww.
Hello Kitty Toothless.
Yes. Love it.
That
Love
is
it.
adorable. Adorbs.
I don't know much about Hello Kitty. Well,
Unless they're doing the Hello Kitty Kiss movie, I probably won't see it. But
Yeah.
but I am surprised it's taken this long. I mean, Smurfs and Garfield and all those have made it there. It's probably about time.
I can't say I ever got on the Hello Kitty train. It was pretty gay, and we all know I'm not gay, so...
Yeah, not at all. By the way, I love your harness, Brad.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. It really helps me attract hot men. But, I mean, for knitting circles...
Yeah, but totally not gay. Totally
But
not
gay knitting circles.
Hey,
like
no butt touching's happening up in here.
Yeah, like there's nothing that's like gay.
He's saying there's nothing.
Like nothing gay. Not at all. I mean, sometimes we just I'm from like farm country. I used to get together with my buds and we would totally like milk the cows together. Not gay.
Oh my.
Not gay. Not at all. Jim, we have another live comment. Did you want to read that one?
Oh, sure. Let me. I'm not on it, so I'm gonna have to get to.
Oh,
it.
I put it in the chat for you.
Oh, okay. This one's from Francisco Salgado, and all he has to say is "woof."
Oh,
well, thank you.
Apparently, he likes what he sees.
Woof right back.
Thank you.
He's taking us in with his eyes right now.
Sun's out, guns out. What? Will's been working out. Show us those guns, Will. Nice.
I think I just got a cramp doing that.
Oh, that's no good.
Oh my God.
No one told me I had to stretch before the show.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get a cramp.
Oh, please don't show our listeners those hairy armpits. No one's gonna like those.
Okay.
Oh my God.
All I gotta say is there's like 28 people watching right now on YouTube, and they're not here because we're reviewing Magic Mike, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wish I knew the statistics of like how many of those 28 had us on mute right now.
That would be interesting to find out.
Hear them,
of the 28, though, only one has sent us any shirtless pics. We're shirtless. You should be too. Send your pics to Brad at moviebearspodcast.com. We'll put them up on the screen. For those
Tasteful shirtless.
Yeah, safe for work shirtless.
Yeah.
If I have to
I'm not showing this at work.
If I have to blur your penis out of the shot, it's too much work. I'll just enjoy it for myself later.
Brad's not saying you can't send him penis pics, just that he can't share them with our viewers.
Yeah, he won't be sharing.
Exactly.
He'll be keeping them for himself.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. In all seriousness, though, if you are hanging out with us live, we definitely welcome you to comment on the YouTube post or Facebook, whatnot. We'll be happy to share your thoughts or questions on air. If you're listening in digital tape delay, you can still join the fun, too. Just send us an email. Get us on Facebook. Be part of the discussion. I hear, guys, that some people are still working on their Islands homework from our Inside Out review.
Oh, yeah?
They have really wanted to cogitate and give it time to figure out their inner psyches.
As we talked about last week, it is really a kind of a self-examination. You know what I mean? To go take inventory of the things that are really important for you.
Yeah, sure.
It's not something we think about every day.
Yep, and this show is streaming live from Tumblr Island.
That's right.
Anyway, all right. Mike, what is your news bit this week?
All right, well, I thought that for my news, I would actually kind of give a little bit of a recap of the money from this past weekend, the top 5 movies.
Do it.
So, to me, the biggest surprise is that Jurassic World is still number 1. Now, this is coming from Screen Rant, but according to them, Jurassic World brought in $43.8 million, putting it still number 1 in its 4th week.
That's legs right there.
Yeah. Now I'll admit I actually saw it on Thursday, so that's not going to count towards these weekend numbers. But I just saw it, and I'm glad I did. But this isn't a Jurassic World review. So
we'll be waiting to see your Lovins. What is Lovins stereo? Is that it?
Yep. That's. I'll get into that in the plugs too.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if you don't fucking plug your own show, I'm gonna kick
I
you.
will certainly plug myself. I promise. So number 2 was Inside Out, bringing in $30.1 million.
Wow.
Number 3 was Terminator Genesis, and I haven't seen it yet. from what I've been hearing, I'm actually surprised it hit number 3. But $28.7 million, coming off of Salvation, which not a whole lot of people liked. I'm surprised that it's got to be the Arnold factor. But
and the time, right? When was the last one?
what was that?
3 years ago?
It was a while back. It was
only 3?
It was 3 or 4. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a lot longer than that, but maybe but because it's been a while and the last movie sucked, people went out to see this to to see if they could improve on that.
So it was actually 2009, so it's been 6 years.
oh wow.
Yeah. Which, that makes me really sad for our local movie theater, because they have a Terminator Salvation game in the Starcade still.
Oh, gotcha.
The theater I went to had a Star Trek Voyager game.
What? Oh my god.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. Like, if you hit the balls in a specific pattern, does Janeway go, "Get off my ship"?
She must.
That'd be
I
awesome.
bet she does.
If she doesn't, the game's not worth
Wasted
ordering.
opportunity.
It's a big portrait of 7 of 9 on the back of on the side of the game, so you know the audience that they were going for there.
Indeed.
So, number 4 brings us into what we're talking about today, Magic Mike XXL, $11.6 million. So, those numbers sound about right.
Wow.
And then just under that, in its second week, was Ted 2 with $11 million.
Yeah, this is kind of a rough week at the for Independence Day. You'd expect more of a turnout for some of these new films that are just opening, like Terminator or Magic Mike, and I think that was the expectation by the studios. But man, Jurassic World is still a monster, pun intended.
Pun intended, yeah.
Fun.
Well, the interesting thing to me is that Inside Out is the only one that's really considered like. Well, Jurassic World could be family friendly, but Inside Out is really supposed to be family friendly, and it's also the only one that's not a sequel or a reboot or anything like that.
Right.
In
right.
that
Yeah.
top 5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to see it doing so well still.
Plus, it's a really fucking amazing movie.
And it's a really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of those top 2 movies are going to take a hit, obviously, next week with Minions coming out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure.
I mean, for them to take a hit that far, like Jurassic World is now what, 4 weeks out? Is it?
I think it's cool. Yeah.
Inside Out's like it's
One less week.
Third.
yeah. So with them already kind of that far in, even if they take a hit because of another film coming out, I mean they've already banked.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
What are we at? 2 weeks away from Ant-Man?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of putting things in the bank, do you guys want to see some hotness from Matt Broussard?
Yeah, we do.
Here we go. Ready? I'm just going to say, if you guys are listening to this in iTunes and not watching video, you were totally missing out. You should go back and check it out.
Yeah, this is the wrong episode to not watch.
Bam. Wow.
Hey, Matt. How you doing?
Woof. Grr. And any other bear phrase that means totally hot. Yeah.
Got the he's in his like naked formal wear.
He's got his like Chippendales dancer type thing going on.
Yeah,
like very
totally.
very thematically appropriate for this episode. I'm
Bow
loving it.
ties are cool.
Hi.
Hot. All right. I got to stop staring or I'll get distracted.
It's like the rest of the episode is just us for the next 45 minutes going, ooh, pretty.
Indeed. So is that all from the box office, Mike?
That is it.
Thank you for that box office report. And now,
Box office report.
throw it over to
Lovin'.
Sally for the weather. Sally?
Well, it's raining men.
Oh
Good
my
pickup.
goodness. Oh my goodness, Magic Mike Lovins. Oh boy. All right. Well, guys, we are about an hour into the show, believe it or not. But you know what? I'm okay with it because I don't know that our movie discussion is going to be that,
In depth.
in depth. I don't know.
You never know.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But we probably should get to it. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Then here we go. Well, actually, no. I'm a man of my word, and I said that from now on, I would let people know up front. Thank you, listener feedback. We are going to talk about the movie spoiler-free for probably 20, 25 minutes or so, and then we'll give fair warning before we take you to Spoiler Pound Town.
I was not prepared for this episode.
That was a little corny, Will. Sorry. Couldn't resist. I had my Adrian Charlie moment right there. Anyway.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so we'll
Gone off the rails.
We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can kind of leave and come back when you're ready to do it. But here we go, our discussion of Magic Mike XXL. So, Jim, why don't you kick things off for us? Give us your a little brief synopsis of the film, what it's about, spoiler-free, your thoughts, and whether you think people should see it in movies, rent it, or skip it.
Yeah, so I will. We've got. I'll start with a little description, I guess, of the movie. Set this thing up. Magic Mike XXL is, of course, the follow-up to the first Magic Mike movie, which was put out in 2012. It was a surprisingly well-received film. That film was directed, as we mentioned earlier, by Steven Soderbergh, who's now moved back to executive producer for this sequel, leaving the directing of this one to a guy named Gregory Jacobs, who, for many, films, was what's called like the second unit director to most of Steven Soderbergh's films. So he did a lot of the kind of second string directing, I guess you could say, some of the B-roll stuff and filler footage. But he's got a chance to be out front as director for this one. I think we'll talk about maybe the differences that kind of brings. Returning from the first movie, of course, as the lead and title character is Channing Tatum as Magic Mike. Who is, right now he's pretty smoking hot commodity, as far as movies go. This guy can probably write his own check at this point. He was also co-producer on this movie, surprisingly, and a couple of other cast names are in there. You may recognize Joe Manganiello is in this one. You'll see Gabriel Iglesias in this one. Some of our Bear fans might recognize him. And a couple of others. So I'm just going to quickly read the synopsis. So it's 3 years later in real world time, and it's also 3 years later in Magic Mike movie time. Yeah. After the first movie and at the top of his male performer game, Mike has bowed out of the stripper life to pursue a legit and longer lasting career as a furniture designer and builder. But while they just happened to be traveling through town, his former stripper buddies, called the Kings of Tampa, lure him out on the road with them for one last ride, culminating in a trip to a stripper convention in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for one last blowout performance.
One last ride.
I was hoping someone would do that. I was
one last ride.
Yeah.
I ain't got strippers. I got family.
Yeah. But as I mentioned before, I really like the first movie because for, quote, a movie about male strippers, as it seemed to be on the surface, I thought it had quite a lot more going for it, with an edgy, dramatic story involving, the shady leader of the dance troupe at the time, who was played by Matthew McConaughey. I thought he brought a lot of character to that movie. And also some dire personal issues going on in Mike's life that were folded into the story that I really enjoyed. And it totally surprised me in a good way how engaging those characters were in that first movie. With the dancing, of course, and some of those performance pieces, kind of the frosting on what I thought was a really good movie. But this movie's tone was completely different. They decided to really go a totally different direction, and kind of tossing aside a huge part of what made the first movie stand out as a kind of an unexpected gem that I thought it was. Instead, this movie focuses on what I think is kind of a weak road trip adventure. I mean, I kind of hate to use the word adventure, just basically a road trip story. And, you know, the minor pratfalls of a bunch of guys making their way to a show, and then, of course, the dancing and performing itself, which I admit is pretty darn good in spots. There are some great set pieces in this movie, but it's just not enough. There were some head-scratching moments in the middle of the movie, choices for scenes that I didn't know where the hell they were coming from story-wise. It seemed to be just kind of thrown in there for one reason or another. We can get into some of that. Not a lot of the dancing. I guess we can use dancing pretty loose as a loose term here, right? Because there isn't a lot of dancing in this movie.
Body performing.
Well,
it's I mean, I guess it falls under the umbrella of dancing, but it's
dancing. It's just sexy dancing.
Yeah, right. And but I mean, those were some of the best parts of the movie because you know, there was. Well, we'll talk about it in spoilers, some of the scenes. Anyway, overall, I left the theater kind of disappointed with this movie. I was saddened that they kind of cheapened the movie, at least in my opinion. So, as far as a recommendation, I would say, unless you're like the 95% of the cougars in the audience, and you're only looking to see hot muscle dudes undulating and junk like that, I'd say wait for this one on Redbox or VOD. There's nothing special that you need to run out and see this movie on the big screen for. This movie was kind of more like Pitch Perfect to me, and Pitch Perfect 2. It was way more like Pitch Perfect than the first movie. And actually, I think they should have gone full Pitch Perfect with this. I would have liked to have seen some of the, you know, like they did in Pitch Perfect with some of the other dance troupes. We got just a glimpse of that toward the end of the movie. And I thought it could have been really funny and really entertaining, but they elected not to put that in the movie. So yeah, just not a winner for me.
So like all of a sudden, Das Sound Machine shows up and starts like stripping.
Well, no, they had, I forget what it was, but they had one other act. They showed like the end of an act or the beginning of another act, and they showed some of the guys. They showed some of the guys in one scene, kind of, I guess, rehearsing.
Right.
It's not a spoiler, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen maybe more of that. It was. We'll get into more in spoilers. Some of the choices they made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. I can't thumbs up or recommend this one for.
It's a pass. It's a pass for you.
I say go right now. Go watch the first one.
All right. Magic Mike Lovins. We have another live comment. Do you want to read that before you get into your thoughts?
Sure. This is from Jeff from Seattle, who says, "We got the cuties, but where's the booties?"
Wow.
Yes. So that might be my favorite comment. Sorry to other people who gave awesome comments as well, but that one rhymes, and I'm a fan of rhyming.
I'm so tempted to stand up right now.
I'm so tempted to ask you to stand up right now.
Oh, does that mean you're naked, Mike?
No comment.
Oh. Oh, goodness. All right, well, we'll let your imagination fill in those holes. And, Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll start with my Magic Mike dance prop.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Right on.
That's a spoiler, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll show it again then when we get to spoilers.
Yeah.
So, I'm actually going to be on the opposite end of Jim. I actually liked it better than the first one. The road trip elements of it, to me, actually enhanced the movie. And I don't know, maybe this is going too far or whatever, but I kind of had a cross between The Hangover and Chef. Somewhere in the middle there is where I thought this movie kind of came in funny, but also I felt like the relationships were actually better in this movie. I thought that the chemistry between the characters felt stronger. They were more believable to me. I like Olivia Munn, but I thought her character in the first one was just extremely bland. I thought that Mike's love interest in this one was much more believable because it wasn't all of a sudden they're in love for as far as, well, I won't get into spoilers in it, but you know, it's just, it was a more believable relationship to me. So, you know, if I were to say whether or not somebody should go see it, my personal opinion is go see it, even if you want to wait till the dollar theater, because it's not special effects heavy or anything like that. But I really enjoyed it. The laughs were better to me. The chemistry was better. So
awesome. So we've got a mightily hard recommendation from our own Magic Mike. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. What about you, Will? Where do you come down on this?
Okay. So as we mentioned in the news section, I haven't seen the first one. I don't have a basis for comparison. I only have what I saw with this film. So the first pro I want to give to it is the fact that this film, from a storyline or from a plot perspective, doesn't require you to have seen the first one to get the plot elements here. That's not saying anything about the quality of the first one, whether you should see it or whether you should not. I felt like I missed absolutely nothing. This story does a really good job, to me, of setting up who these characters are, what their relationship to each other was. While I didn't get all of the, maybe like the resonance that came from some of the references to Matthew McConaughey's character, I think his name was Dallas. I didn't need to. Through context clues, I could totally get how these characters felt about him. So, storyline-wise, I had some problems with the story itself, in that it felt like there were some elements that did just kind of mishmash their way in, that they maybe weren't as well plotted out as they could have been. There was some pretty interesting chemistry between some of the different different dancers in the troupe, and I imagine, again, having not seen the first one, I'm sure a lot of that was based off of that. But I do feel like there was chemistry here. I got to see how Channing Tatum's character and the what's his name, Matthew Bomer's character, like kind of the beef that they had. We got to see a little bit of that. We got to see Kevin Nash being kind of enigmatic as Tarzan. Joe Manganiello being kind of a lovable doofus. And then I guess the Adam Rodriguez character, Tito, was a little bit of a non-starter for me. It didn't feel like he contributed as much storyline-wise. But hey, they can't all be winners. So the storyline went all over the place for me. I didn't really, as much as I enjoyed the chemistry between the characters, I didn't feel like I cared about their story as much. And again, a lot of that's probably just based on what I came into this film with. I did enjoy the dance numbers. I think there were a few in particular. One towards the very beginning that features Channing Tatum by himself. One towards the middle, which features some new characters that are introduced, and one during the climax as part of one of the set pieces. Yeah, that's all pretty spoiler-free. That I thought were all exquisitely done. Like, if those dance pieces were quite good, quite worth watching. So all of that put together, do I recommend this movie? It's hard for me to just like straight up say you need to go see this movie, you need to go watch it. I think that this is one where, if you can go with a group and kind of have that like bonding experience over watching it together, I think that there might be something to be said for it. Like, this is maybe less of a movie that you should go watch and maybe more of an event for people that are fans of doing this type of thing together. But as a film itself, not one I can really recommend. I would say probably pass until like Redbox or something like that, just on the merits of itself as a film. That said, can't wait till we get to talk to spoilers, because there were 3 brand new characters that were introduced to this one, all of which I think were absolute standouts to me, and I don't remember how much they were in the trailers or not. I guess I'll wait till spoilers to talk about them, but yeah, the new characters I thought really stole. As soon as they got introduced into the storyline, like, they were suddenly way more interesting than a lot of the other things that were happening, and I really wanted to see more of them. So it's a light pass for me. It wasn't a terrible film or anything like that. it just wasn't one that, aside from, again, those few dance sequences, that's really going to stick with me.
All right. Well, let's see.
Brad.
We've got a hard pass. We've got a hard love. We've got a light pass. I guess for me, it's a soft see it. I didn't think this was a great movie. I really loved the first one. Expectation management shot. It was hard to go into this movie not sort of expecting more of the same. You know what I mean? And Will's throwing money at me. I'm going to dance, Will. Woo.
I got singles for you, Brad.
Ow! I got
Make it
college
rain.
money as
A
well.
tsunami of dollar bills.
I got college loans to repay. Keep the rain coming.
I got daddy issues to work through.
We can come to an arrangement. Am I older? I don't think I am.
I think you might be by just
Am
a
I?
hair. I don't
A
know.
little bit? I don't
Yeah,
know.
we were born in this. No, you were born. You are older than me.
Yeah, I am older.
Yeah, we
Okay.
worked this out. Yeah.
That's right. So I can be the daddy.
There you go.
I'm the one wearing the leather harness, and you're not, so it works, right?
Sit down, kids. The real daddy is here.
You forgot to call us boy.
That's well. Yeah. Does kids make it sound a little too creepy?
Just a hair.
Boy is better.
Boy. But you got to say it forcefully, like,
Boy.
daddy's here, boy.
Daddy's
It's
here.
a whole nother movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for me, this movie, it wasn't that great. But, I mean, if you're looking for, like, just kind of a fun, get out, see some hot eye candy kind of movie, if you like Channing Tatum, I mean, I think it's worth going to see. You do get to see some hot lads doing their thing up on screen. It was mentioned earlier, the guys in this movie aren't, like, the typical hot guys in our community. We're more about dad bods than ab bods in our community, but having a very wide range myself, I enjoyed a lot of what I saw. But I do lament the fact that this movie doesn't, to me at least, have as much heart as the first one did. The first one was much less spectacle, and it was a lot more like character drama, character study, and I felt like this one was just they threw some of that in, but this was more about the spectacle. This was more about here's this elaborate dance scene. Now how can we string it together with a little bit of plot to get to this elaborate dance scene? And how do we make it all make sense? There were some fun moments. There were some touching character things I did enjoy, but I just felt like overall wasn't quite enough to get me on the hook. Apparently, it's one of those things where, people enjoy half or more nakedness and will come to theaters for it to some degree. But I feel like you need a little more in the seat than, a seat that's hot to get people to be invested. I don't know. But we have another live comment. It's Matt Broussard, who says he thinks the show is hilarious so far, by the way. And he says, what's the soundtrack like on XXL? I'm going to throw this one to Mike Lovins because you, Mike Lovins, are our resident musician. What are your thoughts?
Don't let me down, Mike.
Don't let me down.
Come on, rocker. Let's go.
The soundtrack to me wasn't memorable. I mean, as far they brought out that song that from the first movie, but yeah, I guess myself personally, I'm not a big hip hop guy, so when it comes to dance music, it's not really my forte there. So to me, the music was just a tool for the dancing. So, so I don't even know whether or not to comment on the music itself, because
I think it was mostly hip hop and a lot of that slow. What do they call that slow jammy type of stuff?
Yeah. Like you had stuff like Genuine. You had Jodeci. You had R. Kelly's song. You had a couple of songs, and this gets a little into the storyline, but you had one of the characters in the film sang a couple of the songs. But there was one notable one. I think there was one really good soundtrack inclusion, and it made for one of the more memorable scenes.
The Nine Inch Nails song?
The Nine Inch Nails one was good, but I was going to say I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. I think where they included that was a pretty interesting scene and made for a good soundtrack inclusion.
No, Jim, thank you, because I totally forgot about that one. But that
I perked up when that one came on.
I did too.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you guys, people say all the time that like Backstreet Boys are like terrible. You shouldn't listen to them. You should be embarrassed if you liked them back then. They've always been a guilty pleasure of mine. I was listening to them just today, in fact. Apple Music served up some Backstreet Boys to me in a random playlist shoved my way. And I'm like, why did I stop listening to this? It was so good. Judge me all you want. I don't care. But I like it.
Hey, as cliche as it is, if they'd thrown in a pour some sugar on me, I would have been happy.
Yes!
Okay, yeah. I mean, honestly, when someone's working the pool, you want it to be to pour some sugar on me or some fucking warrant or something, right?
That's right. Actually, oh my God, that makes me think of that scene from Bad Grandpa. Now it's uncomfortable.
Okay, remind me, because I don't know if this is a spoiler, but it's a song that happened during one of the scenes. But I'll have to tell you what I was hoping he was getting ready to sing.
All right. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to that, I'm sure. I actually want to complain a little bit about the soundtrack. I'm sorry. Hip-hop isn't quite my thing either. And I have this problem, too, like if I go to like a bear dance or something, right? Like if it's like electronic music or house music or whatever you call it, I am not musically inclined. I don't know the terms. I just am not that interested, like whether I'm dancing or watching someone else dance. But put on some fucking like a song that I know, you know what I mean? Even if it's like a dance mix of like a classic rock song or something, like I feel a little more personally invested in the song. Like it gets me more into it. Am I the only one that has that problem?
For like a dance, that's one thing. I didn't have as much a problem with it here though, because this is like. Oh, this is male entertainment dancing. So, like, a lot of the sequences that we saw, some of those more, like, slow jam R&B songs, were kind of, like, slow, just dripping with sexuality sequences. Especially, again, there's one whole sequence where we introduce our 3 new characters, and it's all set in this kind of, like, this R&B-ish type strip club. And we get a lot of those songs kind of in that sequence there. I don't know. I kind of liked their inclusion here. And again, I say that having not seen the original, so I don't know the type of music that was used there. But I say this having been to plenty of strip club in my day with my straight friends, and I know the types of songs that tend to get played, and it's usually some combination of slow jam R&B with 80s hair rock. So maybe they should have included a little bit of those just for maybe just to keep it authentic. But I didn't have a problem with the R&B songs.
Gotcha. We have another live comment, Will. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I surely do. All right, here is the comment. Brad, I don't see who this one's from, though. Do you have that?
This is from Steve from Sacramento Movie Bears.
Hey, Sacramento Steve, who says, Magic Mike XXL was dumb movie. If you must see it, at least see it at a post-happy hour viewing full of woo girls, and don't give a flip cougars. That's the only way to see it. Yeah, I had, even though I wasn't in the rowdy screening, it was really weird. Like, at the far end of the theater, there was this one group of these 3 girls, and Channing Tatum came on screen, nothing. Matt Bomer came on screen, nothing. But when, I forget his name again, Joe Manganiello, whenever he had one of his sequences, they lost their shit. And I was surprised that, like, he's the guy? He's the one that's got you girls? Okay. I was not expecting them to go apeshit over Joe Manganiello, but I guess they did. So the Woo Girls, even though I didn't see the Rowdy showing, I don't know. I guess there is something to be said for enjoying it with someone that has the right energy. It's like seeing a comedy when there's a lot of people laughing. It makes it a lot better than if you go see a comedy.
So then why didn't you go? So then why didn't you go to the Rowdy setting if it was going to be a lot better?
It's a couple Woo Girls just like randomly bursting one out is a little better than like people standing up and dancing in the aisles.
Okay, all right.
Plus, I might
have opted the other way, actually. I don't know.
I was seeing this for review purposes too.
That's
like,
true,
if I had the gumption, and I'm not going to. The film didn't do it for me enough to do that. But if I had the gumption to see it a second time, I would go see a Rowdy showing because I think that the energy from that experience would really make a second screening more enjoyable.
More fun.
Yeah.
Will, you were kind of questioning why women were flocking to Joe's character. Remember, he's not called Big Dick Richie for nothing. That should explain a few things.
And have
Fair
you seen
enough.
True Blood?
I dropped off of True Blood.
Is there full frontal on that guy, Mike?
Actually, I don't think they ever did, but
Oh, well, never mind.
Well, remember the character is Big Dick Richie, not the actor.
I looked him up because I did not know what this guy was from, and it's like, okay, Flash Thompson from like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. The Woo Girls are not here for him, so it helps to know that he's from True Blood.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, guys, do we have any non-spoiler things to talk about anymore? Are we ready to cross that line?
Let's get into it. I think there's a lot of stuff we want to say in spoilers.
All right. So spoilers are officially fair game. If you've not seen the movie and you value your virginal innocence, now is your time to bail for about 15 minutes. If you're watching live, or if you're listening on digital tape delay, refer to our handy-dandy show notes and skip ahead using the time index that Jim lovingly crafts for you every week. So, lovingly crafted, yes.
Like handmade meatballs. That's right.
His handmade meatballs are amazing. He does amazing things with hands and meats that just
and balls.
and balls
Mm.
and balls and balls.
Wow.
Slow clap.
First of all, if you had said like, "Hey, Will, do you think Jim's handmade meatballs are going to be mentioned on today's episode?" I'd have been like, "No, probably not." And then if you had asked, "Well, once they were brought up, would it immediately turn into like a meat and nut reference?" And then I would have said, "Yeah, probably so." So I love the way that one transitioned.
Yeah, totally. This is the Movie Bears podcast and not like the movie, Prude podcast. So
We're proving that tonight.
I know, right? Anyway, okay, so here we go. Spoilers. I'm thinking where I would kind of like to start. Mike, I wanted to circle back to you because you've been holding this comment in. I can see it brewing in your eyes. Tell us about that song that you thought was coming.
Okay, so, there was the scene where, what was the character's name? Ken, Matt Bomer's character.
Mm-hmm.
Was like wooing one of the cougar mothers on the couch, and she was talking about, "I love that song, Heaven," and
I love that song. Oh my God.
I know, but I totally thought he was going to start singing
Talking
Heaven
Heads.
by Warrant.
Oh.
Heaven isn't too far away.
That would have been better. That would have been better.
That would have fit our criteria of like genuine plus warrant equals strippers.
Exactly, right? So that was it there, but I didn't know if that was too much of a spoiler, so.
Probably good to hold that under the vest till now. Well, actually, you're not wearing a vest, so I don't know where you were holding it. But
Yeah, hold it wherever you'd like.
The hair vest.
The hair vest, nice.
So
Very nice.
there were several interesting scenes in this movie. The first one I'd like to bring up is, which was probably my favorite scene in the movie, and I thought it was very well done, was the, let's just say the convenience store scene.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
I love that scene, and that was Joe Manganiello too, if I remember right.
Yeah, totally.
He came in, and all the guys are kind of watching from outside, and he comes in and totally acts out the. What song was that? Was that the?
I want it
I want that way. And
Tell me why.
At the end, he's like, thanks. How much for the water and the Cheetos?
Yeah. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was
So
one of
good.
the best scenes of the movie. They kind of had fun with it in a playful way, and it totally stood out for me.
Did you think she wasn't gonna laugh?
I wasn't sure.
I wasn't sure.
Up until that point in the movie, I can't say I was really enjoying my experience too much. Again, there was like a good dance sequence earlier on with Channing Tatum, but that's not enough for a movie for me. But that sequence was legit good. Like, at the end of it, I laughed. The audience laughed. We all had a good time there. In fact, I wish, Jim, you mentioned before, like, a kind of a parallel to, like, Pitch Perfect. And I think this is the type of scene that would have fit very closely in one of those types of movies. Mm-hmm. And I think that I could have used more things like this, like more of these kind of fun, like just go full bore, add a little bit more comedy. If it's not gonna be an in-depth character study or what have you, then just make me laugh. And when it decided to make me laugh, this film did a really good job. It needed more of it. But yeah, this sequence was so fucking good.
One of the things I
absolutely.
liked about that sequence, though, too, is that it was in the trailer, but there's so much more context to it than with the movie, so they didn't give too much of what was really happening
Right.
away with what they showed in the trailer of that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah,
Like, I think
sure.
that was probably one of the highlights, if not the highlight of the movie for me, and the rest of it was kind of so-so. There were. I mean, some of the other dance scenes at the end. When they got to Myrtle Beach, and of course they have to have the training and new routine preparation montage at the end, and then montage, and then they go into the and it wasn't a competition, which kind of blew my mind actually, why they would travel all this way for this convention and have it not be a competition. Just a way of this movie did have no stakes really. There were no stakes in this movie. There didn't seem to be any personal stakes that I saw in the movie. I mean, it was just one last ride for the fuck of it, really. For these guys, there was nothing really riding on it personally or monetarily for the guys or anything like that. Which I suppose you could say, take the opposite way and say, hey, that's cliche. I'm glad they didn't do that.
That's
But-
actually how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was fun to remove those stakes, but I mean, some of those ending sequences were a little bit. Some of them were great, and some of them were just kind of just okay. One thing I did like about this movie, and I'm sure you guys noticed it, is how the men who were performing catered to all types of women.
I was going to say, this is like a BBW lover's wet dream in this movie.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it is, and it's good because I mean they had minority women, they had bigger women, they had younger women, older women, and they were kind of equal opportunity performers, and I kind of like that they kind of worked that into the movie. There were some other things I think they kind of shoved into the movie which didn't quite make sense to me, but I'll let you guys take the mic a little bit and talk about what you liked a little bit about the movie.
So real quick, are you guys ready for some more shirtless listener hotness?
Yeah,
Go.
of course.
Yeah. So Mike Jones sent this in to share with us. Look at that. Not only is he hot and furry, but he's giving us the Vulcan hand.
Nice.
That's awesome, Mike.
Live long and prosper, baby.
Let that geek flag fly. And
I'm
also-
loving the participation. This is so cool. Like,
Me too.
I'm digging this. Yeah.
When's the last time you watched a podcast where listeners sent in shirtless pictures of themselves?
Mike, you just became. Is his name Mike? Another Mike?
Yeah, another Mike.
Another Magic Mike just became a YouTube sensation.
Yes. That's
Congratulations.
Right. You will now be watched by ones of viewers.
Give us a little bit of credit, Mel.
Tens. Let's say tens.
Jeez. Well, if you want to share your hotness with us, we are accepting shirtless pictures. Send them to Brad at moviebearspodcast.com. We'll gladly put them up on the screen and share those with our viewers. But I'm with you, Will. Loving the participation.
Yeah. Jim, you mentioned something a few minutes ago that this very much was like a road trip movie. Like, this film was not about the destination. This film was all about the journey, as cliche as that sounds. And that's one thing that I think, at least in terms of how they presented it, I think that could have been really, really solid. I don't think every film has to have, like, the dramatic, like, oh, if we don't do this one thing, then this other bad thing's going to happen. I think about a movie that we really enjoyed from last year, poster right over my shoulder, Chef.
Yeah.
Which was not about like one giant like steak or anything like that.
Well, it was actually though.
Well, but I mean, more than
There was a lot
anything,
of stakes between the son and the dad. There was a lot.
but it was all about. That was a film that was less about like one plot beat steak and more about it was more about the character relationships and the way that they grew over the course of their journey.
Right.
And I would say that that's kind of similar to what we have here. This is, or at least what we could have had here. I think that they did abandon like the kind of the rivalry between Bomer and Tatum a little earlier than they should have. I think that could have really played out over the course of this movie and given us that connection that we need.
So that was one of the head-scratching moments for me. Like, they brought this thing up on the beach, right?
Right.
Like, oh, you have a beef with me. I don't know what it's about. Well, guess what? The rest of the audience doesn't have any fucking idea what it's about either. And they never really. I don't think they ever really got to what.
I don't know what that one is.
No, it's like
that's
one guy's punching the other guy and didn't make him feel better. I get that, but it's never really. Even watching the first movie, I don't think I remember like if there was a beef, it was non-consequential, and I don't know. It just.
Well, I think it was just that he left. Like he came in as the newcomer. He became sort of the sticky residue that held them all together.
But they played it up like it was personal between those two. Uh-huh. And if what you're saying is true, then it really wasn't just between those two. And what makes Bomer the conscience of the group?
Well, other guys were saying it too. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even Tarzan was like, "Dude, when you left, blah blah
blah." Bomer
blah.
did seem to have like the biggest problem with it.
Yeah, he did.
Like to me, like I thought that again, having not seen the first one, that's my mantra through this review. I kept thinking that maybe they had some sort of beef in the first one, that something was still spilled over here. So it's actually surprising that they didn't. What was discordant for me was we ended up with the Matt Bomer character. His character switched into another character midway through, and that was the thing that was a little jarring for me. At first, when we're presented with him, he's the character that is resentful of Channing Tatum for some reason, and we get to see that come out. He's not sure if he should come. He's kind of got his arms crossed. He's doing all of these things. He's kind of glaring at him at the beach, and then after that sequence, he turns into the hippy-dippy healer lover guy. And it felt like it was, like, honestly, like, it felt like there were maybe two parts of two different scripts that got put together to make that. Like, maybe they were originally planning on making that play out more. They didn't want to completely get rid of it. I don't know what happened in the script writing process, but it really just feel like a bit of a Frankenstein monster in terms of how that character evolved through the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his feelings that were supposed to make us believe then why he was so upset in the first half, and then he's this healer, so he kind of heals his own mental.
He gets rid of all the bad juju.
I just feel everything so intensely, man. Yeah.
Hey, Will, you talked about 3 new characters. You want to talk about that?
I surely can. So at a certain point, Channing Tatum is looking for a new MC because of something that ends up happening to Gabriel Iglesias' character. So he goes and he goes to a friend of his from the past, Jada Pinkett Smith's character Rome, who is an MC at her own strip club, and there we're introduced to several new strippers, 2 of which end up kind of joining the crew along with Jada Pinkett Smith. One of them is Donald Glover, who is an actor who I absolutely adore. I think he is super full of charisma. I enjoy seeing him in things. And the other one is, and I don't remember his actual name. Stephen Boss, or as I know him as, he's Twitch from like every single season of So You Think You Can Dance. He is a huge like dancer judge. He's fantastic. So it was nice seeing him show up in this and do what he do. So I enjoyed these 3 new characters. Again, I thought that when they had their big set piece at the end, I think that there are parts of it that didn't work, but the parts that worked best for me were the parts where Jada Pinkett Smith was working the crowd, and the parts where Twitch was doing his dance with Channing Tatum. That final set piece, the mirror piece, was brilliant. Like, that is some fantastic
that was really cool.
choreography. In fact, I wasn't liking a lot of the other dances at the end, because for this being the big climax of the movie, they felt very like, I'm the guy that likes candy, so let's do a little bit of candy and then move on.
I'm the dungeon master.
So some of those felt very abrupt and just kind of like we have to be pay lip service to everyone's character quirks. But I thought that was a legitimately good sequence. Channing Tatum and Twitch dancing across the mirror. That's. If anything's worth the price of admission, I would say it was that sequence there.
Yeah, that was a mix. That whole sequence was a mixed bag for me. First of all, the whole reason why they were there was very much shrouded in mystery. Like, they're talking about, ooh, it's a ghost. He's a ghost from my past, and they even worked it into the, like, hey, queens, what do you do when a ghost comes into your house? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, seriously? Like, what? Just, I don't know. Let's not make a big mystery out of this thing. And in the end, it was like, we find out what it was. Oh, yeah, I used to dance with her a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's all it was. I mean, it was just like, I don't know. It was really weird the way they, but they did it for plot reasons. They needed an MC because they goofily, basically, they put Gabriel Iglesias in the hospital in his, and as soon as he's in the hospital. Of course, they had the bedside scene, and you knew that you were going to see him again later.
Of course.
He's going to come back at the end of the movie, and sure enough, there he is, driving the van, waving, smiling. I'm surprised he didn't come back. I wish he had come back with a performance all his own. That would have been great, but they didn't do that.
How about the drag scene?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just.
Yeah.
How can we talk about Iglesias without talking about the drag scene, right?
Oh, I thought the drag scene was really cool, actually. You got to see a little bit of. It was kind of a little tease in the first part of the movie, which was otherwise, other than the convenience store scene and the Channing scene where he's basically humping everything in his workshop. It was kind of a slow beginning of the movie until they really got going on the road trip. But before we go any further, I want to read another user comment we got, or listener comment, from someone named Lawrence Kind. He says, I'm too shy to share my shirtless pic with everyone, but it's nice to see other big guys being sexy and shirtless on YouTube.
Aww.
Oh, yeah. So here we are,
Well,
sexy and shirtless on YouTube.
Lawrence, we can definitely understand being a little shy. I have been there before. I never thought I would go shirtless at the pool, and now I'm shirtless on YouTube. What? Yeah. But
Shirtless
anyway.
at the pool.
And yeah, just letting it all hang out shirtless on YouTube isn't for everybody, but but once you've gotten a taste of it, man, forget it. It's a slippery slope, yo.
We just have to make sure we cannot be shirtless every episode. We've got to bust this out for special occasions. Sorry, viewers.
Magic Mike 3.
Magic Mike 3.
I'll steal a line from the movie Dope. It's a slippery slope, yo.
Speaking of shirtless awesomeness, we have another hot shirtless pic from Paul Alderete. You guys want to see it?
Let's do
Another one.
Another one. Bam. Look
Wait
at
for it to come out.
There we go.
Look at how big that thing he's putting in his mouth is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
He's thinking of Will while he's doing it.
He's
man.
pounding some liquid courage right there.
He's taking a big old shot with a hot
Look at Will looking on approvingly.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, shirtless, alcohol. You were speaking the Will language.
Oh, the show has been so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is good. This has been good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that was really cool about that sequence with the where Gabriel Iglesias does the drag. So they're at this drag show, and like the thing is kind of like, I want to, the MC there is like, I want to see who the next queen is, encouraging people to come up and let their gay flag fly, so to speak, in terms of how they dance. Mm-hmm. None of this was very clever for this type of movie. This could have been an extremely. I was cringing, waiting for the homophobic moment. Like I was waiting for them to go like, oh, what type of place did you drag me to? But all of them were like, yeah, I'm gonna get up on stage and dance with these gay dudes. And no one batted an eye. They all got into it. They had fun. It was a super cool sequence. It felt very inclusive, and I liked that.
Oh, absolutely, Will. I agree with you there, and I think it's not being a part of that that scene, male performers and stuff. But I would imagine that they're quite used to that world, because I'm guessing that a lot of male performers perform both for women and for men. So I'm guessing that they're maybe a little bit more sensitive to that than.
I would have almost liked to see that been a little bit of a part of the movie.
Oh, really?
Like in all seriousness, like just seeing one of them have to
deal with his
to a guy that happened to be like at Jada Pinkett's club or something like that. I don't, or whatever. It would have been an interesting dynamic.
I did wonder where the gay boys were at in some of these strip joints because they're out there. I mean, we have friends in Dallas who go to this place called the Tin Room, and you know what I mean. I mean, they love going to see shirtless men just as much as any woman does.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
mean,
So.
and a big convention of male strippers. I mean, unless they flat out have a no male audience member policy or something like that.
Right. I'm not going to complain too much, though, because in the first movie, like, every woman who was, like, watching them strip was, like, a 6 or above on the man-woman scale or whatever, right?
Gotcha.
And one of the complaints was, why aren't you showing it how it really is, like an every woman sort of melting pot, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it seems like they really took that feedback to heart for this film. In fact, I thought it was really cool how, like, they kind of showcased the big girls. Not even they were like in the background. You know what I mean? Like in the Domina scene, right? Rome's place.
Yeah.
One of the big girls is like on a massage table, and the guy's like flipping her around and pulling up her legs, and you know what I mean? Like I was like, wow, this is kind of like
He's basically dry humping her.
Well, yeah, of course, and I
And a
want to
little
be
wet
dry
humping
humped
too.
You know what I mean? But you know, I just thought it was kind of neat to see that.
Did you guys catch who that was?
No.
Who was that?
What? You talking about the guy?
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
Michael Strahan.
Yeah, it was Michael Strahan.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, in my little one-off review, I said there's a cameo. You're going to be like, is that who it is? And then you're going to find out, yeah, that is who that was.
Sure enough, it is. Well, I love too that the women that we got to see. Yeah, I mean there were a variety of like sizes and shapes, and again a lesser movie. God, I'm as much as I didn't enjoy this movie, there are certainly some things to really praise about it, and one of them is that they never played that up for laughs. I think about one of the movies that annoyed me the most this year. Earlier in the year, we watched The Wedding Ringer, just because one of the leads in that is fat. Whenever they didn't know how to finish one of the scenes off, they're like, "Well, let's just put in a fat pratfall." They could have done that here. They could have, had the girl fall through a glass and them kind of like, oh, and then keep dancing around her or something like that. They could have gone the cheap laugh, and they never did. So. Kudos to them for like showing some PC restraint with like sexuality and weight and race and all of those different things here.
Absolutely.
And I know that they featured some bigger women in this movie, but I think maybe part of my overall displeasure with the movie is the fact that the whole title is a misnomer and misleading for me. I was really hoping for like a Magic Mike really XXL movie. I guess I'm going to have to wait for the porn for that one.
I did wonder about that, though. Like, in terms of why it was called Magic Mike XXL, like double extra large. If was that referring to the girls? I mean, I don't understand.
Dick.
Oh, Richie's dick?
Which they never really showed.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like you don't have to, like the thing about going to like a strip club of any type, I guess maybe not of any type, but the thing about like strippers and stuff is not necessarily like you go there and you're just like, I'm gonna see dick. It's more just like the hint and the allure thereof, and that's what we got in the title too. Like that's what appealed to the audience of this. Not the idea that they were actually gonna see Channing Tatum's dick, but the idea of just the allure of it, kind of like the giggling and tittering, like hee hee hee. You know what that means, right? So I think the title fits. Like the 2X, the 2. And kind of that allure, that titillation.
I think it's just a titillate and tease. I think it's really what it is. Because I don't know how to spoil the first movie because Will, you haven't seen it, but
it's
I think
okay. I think
there was actually some stuff shown in the first movie that didn't get shown in this movie, if I remember right, in the dressing room scenes and stuff.
I think you're right. Yep.
And they didn't really. I'm surprised they didn't. I mean, if they have a guy named Big Dick whatever. I think they showed some of that in the first movie, but they didn't at all in this movie. They just referred to it. This movie was kind of weird that way. It was very softcore pornish.
Yeah. They could have at least pulled a Boogie Nights and showed a fake one.
Right. At least we didn't get like the peach panties. We
didn't even see much male butt in this movie, did we?
We saw Channing Tatum's butt, right? He had on a G-string.
Yeah, and we got to see it in the pre-show.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say before we move on, I know we got to get to plugs here shortly, but I really enjoyed Andie MacDowell in this movie. I had no idea she was going to be in it, and when she just shows up at that Savannah, Georgia scene, I was like, "Is that Andie MacDowell?" Like, her accent was a little weird sometimes, but I kind of enjoyed her as like the boozy, floozy, cougar mom. I thought she was pretty cool.
Speaking of people who just kind of popped up, what do you think of Elizabeth Banks?
I think it worked seeing her because some of those same Pitch Perfect references we were talking about before.
Her character was very much like her character in Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, right.
Mike, you had talked about chemistry between Mike and the female love interest in this movie. I don't know, man. Maybe you saw something that I didn't see. I didn't think there was much more, maybe even less chemistry between these two people. There was a scene on the beach where they kind of got to know each other. The way that was shot was really weird to me. I turned to Brad at one point. I'm like, they're talking in the dark. You could see the side of their faces, and you can't even see them talking. They could have actually been reciting different lines, and they dubbed shit in because you couldn't see their faces at all, and it kind of bugged me a little bit, that choice of, like, I know they want to make it realistic, but there's such a thing as like taking the audience out a little bit.
My whole thought on it was that, to me, it just felt like they had this budding friendship, and it went into flirtation, but even at the end, it doesn't seem like they went anywhere else than friendship. And I guess that's actually kind of what I liked about it, because it's been, a couple days? They're not all of a sudden in this deep love.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, it wasn't a love at first sight kind of thing. There was a lot of flirtation. Certainly by the end, they were kind of like sexy friends.
Right.
Alluded to her being a lesbian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's. I felt like what I really needed out of that to have liked that a little bit more was I didn't like the banter. I didn't like the patter between the two of them. Like I felt like I get that they were supposed to be kind of like cutesy flirting and kind of like ribbing one another.
Wisecracking, yeah.
But I don't think that that the dialogue was really sharply written there. Like, I didn't really buy it. It felt like a meet cute, like the thing in the romantic comedy where the two people are supposed to meet, more so than organic dialogue. And I do agree that this film was really dark. Like, there were not dark in terms of like tonally, like people getting murdered and stuff like that, but like there were several scenes. The one on the beach when they first show up at the house and was it Savannah? A few of them when they're outside, where it just feels like the lighting director and his entire crew just decided to take the day off, and it felt like everything was just lit with organic lighting, and maybe not completely organic. And that's in and of it. In some films that could really work.
Right.
Like, there were long sequences here where, like, when we're first introduced to like the female lead of this movie, it's really hard for me to see her face. So that when we see her again later on in the film,
it's like, who was that?
I didn't recognize her by face. I recognized her because of Channing Tatum going, "Oh, that's her."
Exactly.
I felt like this film could have used more light.
Right.
So here's something interesting, real quick. So if you go onto IMDb and look at the credits on this movie, the director of the photography, is that what it is? The DP?
DP.
Is Steven Soderbergh, credited as Peter Andrews, and the editor is Steven Soderbergh, credited as Mary Ann Bernard.
Well, if so, this is probably the worst shot Steven Soderbergh film I've seen, because this film looked really generic, really generic. Yeah. Like, it could have been anybody that put this, any professional, I guess, a non-stylized person that put this, the same guy who shot any movie, I don't know, Superbad or whatever. It just didn't feel very cinematic to me, very much. I don't know.
So real quick, guys, we have a comment from Steve, again, from Sacramento Movie Bears. He says, you guys forget that Magic Mike did have an XXL member of their crew. Their driver, Gabriel.
Yeah, they almost killed him. They basically killed him off a quarter way through the movie. Only to have him come back again at the end. Hi, everybody, I'm back.
He was still XXL, I guess, right?
Yeah, but he didn't get... he did get on the stage for the drag queen scene, which was awesome.
But everyone else had their shirts off, and he had his shirt on.
Of course.
Of course.
But based on what we know about Gabriel Iglesias, that's not surprising.
Well, guys, we still have plugs to get to.
Yeah.
Are we at a point now where you feel comfortable transitioning?
Let's plug it up.
All right, let's do it. Mike, I have a feeling I know what at least one of your plugs might be. I don't know if you have more than one, but go for it.
Nope, tonight just one. So I started my own YouTube channel and just went live this weekend. It is called Lovin Stereo, Lovinstereo. So I'm going to be doing videos not just of movies, but of music, video games, just whatever entertainment-wise that I feel like I want to talk about. Short videos, under 10 minutes, something like that. So I've got 2 videos up right now. One is a discussion about getting back into collecting vinyl and listening to music on record. And the other one is just my quick first instinct of what I thought of Magic Mike when I got out of the theater yesterday. So I do have a URL, so just www.lovinstereo.com. I'll take you right to my YouTube page. So hopefully some of you bears out there will go check it out.
Yeah, Mike, I caught the Magic Mike one. I didn't know you had another one out, so I'm going to go check that out. Being a guy who remembers and holds vinyl near and dear to his heart, doesn't get to hear it as much anymore as he'd like to, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that, so I'm checking it out for sure.
Awesome.
Most definitely. You said it was love, like with no E, right? Lovinstereo.com?
Right, so my last name, Terrio.
Perfect. Got it. We'll totally put that link in the show notes. So, awesome. Are you going to be shirtless on your show, Mike?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No? All right. All right. I was just curious. All right, awesome. Let's see, who's next? Will, you go.
All right, so usually this is the part where I'd be like, oh, here's that other more indie movie that I liked from this last week that you should go see if it's in limited release in your area, because Will likes those types of movies. But I don't have that one for you guys this week. And the reason I don't is my week has been dominated by 2 things. One, bear pool parties, but I'm not going to tell you anything about what happens at those. But what I am going to
know what happens at those.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other thing, the thing that I can talk about, is this television show. It's on Netflix. Everyone has already been pretty much just like singing this show's praises left and right. I will continue to do so a little bit. It's called Sense8, and it is by creators the Wachowskis and J. Michael Straczynski, as you guys might know from like Babylon 5. Such a clever little show. I enjoyed this first season really well. It reminds me of if the show Heroes had lived up to all of the promise that it had in its first season and just had a more cohesive, solid, well put together arc, that's what I would have gotten out of that. It would have been something like Sense8. Mileage may vary, may not be for everyone, but man, I fucking love this show. I found myself tuning in it's on Netflix, so you can just binge all 12 episodes. But I found myself just waiting patiently that when the boyfriend was ready, so we could watch the next one. Just like, are you off? Are you off work? Are you off work? Can we watch the next Sense8? Let's watch the next Sense8. It's perfect for binge watching. Great character development from a multinational cast, including the fantastic Duna Bai, who I absolutely adore. So yeah, if you haven't watched it yet. And again, I know everyone on Facebook has already pretty much sung this show's praises, but it's called Sense8, and it's quite good.
Nice.
That's
Yeah,
one we've been meaning to catch up with,
Yeah,
and
we totally have.
goes on the list. It's just so much to catch up.
Put it on the list.
We finally finished Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
But now we've started Big Brother, which is fucking 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
So
which is ridiculous, but
it's like you end one thing and start 2 more. But
Hey, Jim, the first season of Big Brother was 5 nights a week.
what? I didn't know
wow,
Yeah, that was overkill.
that's
I think twice a week would be a big improvement over what it is now, but that's another whole thing. That's another
big
podcast.
improvement.
That's
Yeah,
an MBP TV podcast.
I know. Let's see. For me this week, I was a huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. I've never read any of the Guardians of the Galaxy comic books, but I feel like we've been talking about Mac Broussard enough. I ought to talk about comic books. A new Groot-focused comic has come out from Marvel. It's 2 issues in at this point. So super, super easy. They're available on Comixology. You can get them online or pick them up at your local comic shop. Fucking hilarious and very, very heartfelt. Will, have you read Groot 1 and 2 yet by chance?
I have, and yes, agreed.
Yeah, so good, so good. Awesome stuff. There's some really cool Rocket Raccoon stuff in there as well, although Groot is the main focus. So definitely, I would say, you know what I mean? If you're looking for a good jumping on point to get more Adventures of Groot, it's a good one.
So how is it that Groot gets one before Rocket?
Oh, Rocket's had one. Like, in fact, Rocket's run, it went a few issues, and it recently wrapped up and turned into the Groot comic. Like, they stopped making the one to make the other as part of the.
Maybe I'll check out the Rocket one since it's my favorite character. So
there you go. But there's some good Rocket stuff in Groot as well. You should.
Maybe it'll lead me into Groot.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. But anyway, that's all I got this week. Jim, what do you got?
Oh, so I want to talk about. I was lucky enough to make a guest appearance on another movie podcast. So these guys that had kind of stumbled across our podcast had contacted us and said, "Hey, let's like to listen to your podcast. I'd really like it. Would you guys like to? One of us would love to be on your show. Would you like to come on our show?" So these guys produce a podcast called War Machine versus War Horse. It's an interesting concept for a podcast. I think it's super unique and interesting, and I was able to do a guest appearance last night. We recorded it. It's not out yet till I think probably midweek this week, about the same time that this show will drop on iTunes. But I was on with one of the hosts, Michael Denniston. Really cool guy. The other host, normal host, Chris, was not able to join us, but we still had a fun conversation. And Michael definitely has a love of movies, just like we do, and you could tell by talking to him that that he just enjoys movies as much as we do, and we could have talked for a long time. But the format is interesting and a lot of fun. They pick a new or upcoming movie, like this week it was Magic Mike XXL, and then they also pick 2 other existing films that have maybe a similar premise or similar idea as the new film. For instance, on this week's episode that I guested on with when we talked about Magic Mike XXL, we also talked about Flashdance and the Full Monty, and so we were comparing all mostly Flashdance and the Full Monty, but we'd also compare them a little bit to Magic Mike XXL. So just a really interesting concept. It does just in its concept alone, it opens up some avenues of conversation to compare themes between movies. And I had a blast, and hopefully in the near future, I think, Brad, we've already got it planned to have Mike or Chris on the show. Right? Definitely for our Paper Towns review. Yeah, so that'll be fun. So thanks again to the War Machine versus War Horse. You guys should check those out if you like movie podcasts. They have a lot of fun also on their podcast. So yeah, check it out. War Machine versus War Horse.
Awesome. We'll also put some linkage in our show notes,
Mm-hmm.
both for Love and Stereo Mike and for War Machine versus Warhorse. Gotta say, this has been one of the more fun episodes we've had in a while. I mean, every episode is fun, but from audience participation to just a great, fun conversation to woofy hot men I get to stare at while I'm
bare-chested men
talking. Yeah, totally. Good times. Mike, as usual, I mean, shirtlessness aside, it's always a pleasure to have you guest on the show. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, great to have you. Great to look at you shirtless, as always.
Are we creeping on you too much, Mike? Are we making you uncomfortable?
No. I have a feeling that's not even close to his comfort level.
He's all like, look at my nipples, everybody.
You're having a nipple off right now.
Yeah.
Nipple off. What? There's my nipples.
Oh, this is fantastic.
These are my Guatemalan whore nipples, guys. They're like huge.
Oh my God.
So, do Guatemalan whores have large nipples? Is
They
that
apparently
what I
do.
infer from this?
So I gotta tell you the story.
It sounds
So I met-
vaguely racist. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Oh
Just a
gosh.
little.
Okay. Well, let me tell the backstory. So I was at a pool party last summer, and this guy comes up, and he's like, "Your nipples are so big; they're like dinner plates." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "You have Guatemalan whore nipples, buddy." And I'm like,
All right.
"Okay, I'm just gonna back away."
Whatever turns you on, I guess.
Yeah, like those are two statements. Like, I'm sure he meant them in a very flattering way, but it's like those aren't necessarily flattering statements. Like, no, I don't want dinner plate nipples. I don't want to look like a Guatemalan whore.
Well, I don't know. Guatemalan whores can be pretty, just like any other whore. But we got some gym nipplage.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, look at those nipples. All right, now we need Will's. The nipples are complete.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you tilted your camera?
Well, I did.
Nice.
I had to bring the nipples
Right.
in frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Camera tilt. Now it's a gay cam party.
Oh, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever fucking
Well,
done.
those-
Just nipples on cam. What the fuck? What did I do with my life? How did I get to this point?
Well, let me just say those chest days are paying off.
Oh well, thank you.
Oh yeah, we saw you shirtless like all the time when we were there for South by Southwest, and now a few months later, like you can totally tell the difference.
Yeah, he'd just take his shirt off in one of the screenings.
He totally would.
Look at
Totally
me.
would.
Yeah, it's just like it's like, oh, is that? Oh yeah, I'm just gonna take my shirt off right in the middle of this fucking movie. Yeah, all the time.
This fucking movie, Disaster Playground,
hot,
sucks. I'm just
dude.
gonna get naked.
No, I was thinking more about like in the mornings when we're all like naked, passing each other in the halls, like trying to get into the shower and get dressed and get out the door in 10 minutes.
Your turn. Yeah.
Yeah, but exactly. So
Sounds
anyway.
like P-Town.
Indeed. Anyway, super fun show, guys. Thanks so much for joining us as normal. One thing I just want to say, I think we have some amazing listeners. It's always a pleasure to hear from you guys.
We really do.
Occasionally we do fun, weird stuff like this. This morning I was like, man, we're going to be shirtless. I ought to just say other people should be shirtless too. And then I'm like, wait, that might be weird or creepy. No one's going to do that. And then we started getting pictures sent in during the show, and I'm like, our listeners rock.
Audience participation, so audience participate, and thank you for having done so. This was so much fun. Lots of not only for the photos that we got, which were great, but also we got a lot of comments this episode. We got a lot of just things to read back, different people saying what they felt about the movie or what they felt about us being shirtless or whatever. I appreciate that so much. It's so much more fun when we have that energy to feed off of. So everyone that joined us tonight, thank you so much. You helped make this a blast for me.
Absolutely. And this is episode 137. Holy crap, guys.
Wow.
137. Holy
Yeah.
moly. Right. Well, 150 is coming up. Are we going to do something special?
Pantsless.
Pantsless, yeah.
We'll do the whole show with, like,
Barefoot.
barefoot. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a foot fetish podcast.
I hope a good movie is coming out around that time. Like, I really hope it's not just one of those dud movies where we're like, we get a few of those where it's just like, they're not as they're not movies that we hate. They're not movies that we love. They're just right there in the middle enough that like.
See, by then it's going to be like past the blockbuster season, but before the holiday.
Exactly.
Yeah. 13 weeks out. Like we could probably calculate it out if I felt so inspired to look at my calendar and a list of movies. But we'll probably do that around episode like 148. Start planning for one.
Yeah,
Right
we'll
around
figure-
Sinister 2 or something like that.
We'll figure something out. Anyway, guys, Minions next week. Is that
Yeah. Minions is
yeah.
gonna sweep up. It's gonna be
Yeah.
Minions.
some Minions goodness? Will
Yeah.
not be shirtless on the Minions show.
No.
The
Well,
family
we
show.
might be painted yellow.
That would be a little.
Is that our theme? Full body paint?
Oh, God.
Oh my God! Yeah, we need to stop.
Full body paint and goggles.
This is a slippery slope. Like
Slippery slope.
There's a certain point where theming turns into gimmick. We don't want to be those guys.
No,
No.
that slippery slope is dope, but I'm avoiding it, Jim. Anyway, all right. Good night, everyone. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Say goodbye, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.